It's about independence and celebrating 61 years of independence free from British rule is not something we should joke around. 61 years, not an easy one to move. But we give, of course, glory to God and honor to Him who managed to take us through this. But today, since the celebrations are going on in Kitgum here, we assure you we are going to keep you ultimately informed, and we are going to have a very interesting discussion here with always our guest, Professor Christopher. You're welcome once again to Church of Uganda.
Thanks very much, and I'm very happy to be hosted by Family TV, Church of Uganda. Special greetings from my party president, Honorable Jim Makena, UPC fraternity at Uganda House, in Uganda and in the diaspora. We are all very happy to be with you on 61st independence celebrations.
Wow. And of course, when we talk of independence, you surely cannot leave out UPC. So that is why we have Professor Christopher here today to take us through what it means to be independent. So Christopher,
yes,
Professor, you could first take us through what was the major role or the major impact of UPC in regards to getting independence here in Uganda.
But for the first time, allow me to be a little bit selfish. Before I speak of UPC, maybe I speak of my immediate family.
Oh.
Because it also has some indirect or direct contribution in the independence struggle.
That's interesting.
The very person you are holding here, my mom had labor pains towards mid-April.
Okay.
Yes, and on the 25th April 1962, we had elections in the country, which UPC won and formed this independent government we are talking about. So I was born on the 27th April 1962 at Mulago Hospital.
Wow.
On top of being named Lwanga Christopher, my mom and dad, the late dad Stanley Rama, also decided to name me Apollo. Such that when you are in the family circles, relatives and friends, Lwanga Christopher may not work.
Apollo.
It is Apollo. So I'm continuing with the legacy of independence.
Wow.
If in the future God gives me a son, I will also name that son Apollo. Such so that the legacy of independence continues inside the family.
Wow.
But that is not all. When I came back from Zambia in 2006 to do the campaigns for Mama Miria when he was the party president for UPC, Honorable Jim Makena picked me from the bus station, took me to the headquarters, and then he drove me home at Kaboja. Reaching Kaboja, my mom was of course very happy. I last saw her in 1996, and this was 2006. But when I introduced Honorable Jim Makena, by that time he had not yet become a member of parliament, so my mom remarked that this is my son directly, because I'm the one who taught to your mother at Buloba College. So that means also my mother had a direct hand in bringing up the first lady of our Ugandan independence.
Wow.
This is Mama Miria Kalure Obote. And the connection does not stop there. My elder sister, Joyce Rutwama Miriam, we are classmates, we are sharing the same dormitory, we are neighbors with Mama Miria Kalure Obote. So those are a bit of the humble contributions. And when I went to Zambia in 88 December, I was with the founding father up to the time of his death. So I think I've had a bit of that luck. So that's why I pleaded that for the first time, let me be selfish. And I mentioned such type of issues.
Wow.
Yes.
That is interesting. You have a strong connection to,
yes,
the independence.
Please. I'm a product of independence. Maybe one other thing I have forgotten, at the village, my village in Kaboja, one of our friends, family friends, was also born and named Apollo Tebajanga Lwanga. We are of the same age.
Wow.
Yes.
That is interesting. You had to be selfish indeed.
Yes.
So please take us now through the contributions or the role of UPC.
Yeah, the role of UPC, when it comes to independence, it is not a selfish role, as I would say. And it is traced from our ancestors who started what we call primary resistance. When the white man or external influences started coming in, we had a lot of question marks in the 1870s, 1880s, and 1890s. Yes, it is true. Our Kabaka, Mutesa I, wrote an invitation letter which brought in the missionaries. But much as he wrote that invitation letter, he was not very sure of what type of interest those people represent. And in the process, he preferred to restrict them to the courts, to his parish, not knowing that he's making a terrible mistake. Those people are essentially sophisticated. Even they will penetrate and they do all their activities under his nose. And indeed it happened. They divided the chiefs. Some went to the Catholics, some went to the Protestants, some went to the Muslims, some remained traditionalists. That meant that the Buganda kingdom, all society was dividing at the center. By the time Mutesa one left the scene and Lwanga came in, Lwanga could not understand how to handle those diplomatic games.
Okay.
And it became even worse that the helpers, those who were being groomed to take over the kingdom, also got suborned, got caught up in that mess, the younger pages. Some became Catholics, some became Protestants, some became whatsoever. Now the Bible teaches one man, one wife. Teaches regular prayers. Now Lwanga had not come from that background. Lwanga had come from a different background. And now his people who have immediately converted are labeling him a pagan. And for us, we know the number one in Buganda kingdom is the Kabaka.
Yeah.
So how do you joke with the Kabaka and you think Lwanga is going to spare you? When Lwanga saw that his powers were reducing, he said, let me punish them. And he started planning. Wherever he's planning, his plans are leaking out. And when the plans are leaking out, they also organized themselves. And they realized that having only the faith is not enough. You must also struggle to have an army. Which army that wherever you are threatened, the army can jump in. Which became a religious army, a Christian army of that nature. And also Lwanga said, don't intimidate me. This is the throne I inherited. I will teach you a lesson. So in the process, Lwanga was also being chased from the throne, Namulondo, and he could come back. As he comes back, the situation becomes very difficult. Now the British realizes that whatever they have done to Buganda may go to waste if they don't intervene. And in the process of saying we intervene and we save the missionary work and the Christians, it meant to bring in a special army and a special leader. And the special leader who was brought in is the one you popularly know as Kapere Lugadi, Captain Lugadi. But Captain Lugadi did not have enough tools. So what does he do? There is this army of Khedive Ismaili of Egypt, who was interested in colonizing Uganda and sent Emini Pasha, we studied about in P7, as his governor. Emini Pasha came with the Sudanese soldiers and Egyptian soldiers. They did the job nicely. In northern Uganda, they established that particle. In Bunyoro, they established themselves. But something unexpected happened in Sudan. This is the Mahdi rebellion. The Mahdi wanted to liberate himself from external influences and Sudan gets independence. So when the uprising happened, it was now meant that Emini Pasha's forces in northern Uganda could not get supplies because the supplies were coming from Egypt through Sudan. Now that meant that these forces in Uganda are going to be aimless. And their leader Salim Benau who had a struggle of how to look after those forces in Bunyoro, how to look after those forces in Uganda, till somebody whispered to Lugard that you cannot suffer in this mess. There are some Sudanese mercenaries. Go and pick them, hire them, talk the language they want. This is how now we are having Nubians in our army. This is now how Sudanese are penetrating our army. And indeed, Lugard built on that army and put up a very strong fight just here at Odi Kampala. And that is when now Lugard managed on the behalf of Imperial East African Company and on the behalf of the British to dominate. And as he dominated, the side which fought with him, along him, were the Anglican, the Protestant army. And from that time, Britain was assured that it is going to be in charge of Uganda. But of course, Lwanga did not give up. Kabalega did not give up. They simply retreated. And interestingly, they ended up retreating in Irango. And when they retreated in Irango, our great grandparent, Blahimu Akachi, said, you come, let us organize here, and we see how we can fight back at the British. Now, as they did all that groundwork, and they polished their army, they were ready for the army, they were ready for the fight, the British followed them now with another special army, being led by our son of the soil, Semei Kakunguru. So the fight was quite interesting. And indeed, Lwanga was grabbed, Kabalega were grabbed, and they were exiled. That sort of resistance they put up in history, in politics, we term it as a primary resistance.
But how is Semei Kakungulu looked at, like after fighting his own? Don't people feel like sacrificing him?
In colonialism, there were two aspects. Either you could start as a resistor and you are defeated. You start as a collaborator and you are used and abused and disillusioned in the end. Yes.
Okay. That was quite interesting.
So, but Semei Kakungulu represents an ordinary person, okay, who has fought his way and is rewarded and has been made part of the new ruling aristocracy. Indeed, Semei Kakungulu was promised to be a Kabaka in eastern Uganda. And he continued to comb and to plant mivule trees up to Teso, Mbale, Bukedi, all those were his regions, and Usoga. But he ended up being disillusioned when he was not given that post, and indeed became even a pagan, only dropped Christianity and became a Bamalachi. There was a special religion of Bamalachi, which was part of the resistance. You don't take medicine, you don't recognize the white man's religion. So that focus of the primary resistance of the Lwanga, Blahimu Akachi, Kabalega gave us a foundation for this modern nationalism, which is known as secondary resistance, and it is this one which finally now delivered independence. So independence, look at it in the context that it is like a relay. Each one ran his part.
Okay.
But those who now completed it to the final end are Uganda National Congress and Musaz, who now triggered a modern political party in 1952. As it triggered and founded the modern political party, Uganda National Congress, also Stanislas Mathias Mugwanya, I think the grandson of Stanislas, together with Kasoro, coalesced and founded the Democratic Party in 1954. And now we started looking towards Uhuru. But UNC is very symbolic in this because of its motto, which was saying, one man, one vote, we want self-government now. That was very clear, very definitive, and in the process, because it was very clear, the white supremacy, the white colonialism was more worried of UNC than any other political grouping which came up later, because UNC was very specific with what it wanted. And when it was being founded here and it had problems in Uganda, it immediately jumped out of Uganda and went to the east, went to the north, went to the west, and sold the message. And the message gained momentum. So what does the white man do? The colonialist do? He did two things which are a curse even in today's Uganda political setup or landscape. Says, I have to stop UNC. How do I stop it? One, by encouraging resignations. One will resign minus giving an explanation. And another one was to cause splits. One will split. When you ask, why are you running away from us? Is it the policies you are not in agreement? We will say, no, the policies are okay, but me, I'm splitting.
Was it
Yes.
some sort of torture?
Yes. Okay. I'm breaking away because when you are not united, you cannot fight
yes.
an elephant. And in this situation, colonialism was an elephant in the room. You cannot fight it, the elephant, or scare the elephant when you are disjointed. So we are lucky that when all this was happening, our son, the founding father, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, was in the laboratory in Kenya, sharpening his political teeth and gaining a lot of experience.
But maybe, when do political parties start?
In 1952.
1952.
Yes,
and
by UNC.
Doesn't this also cause divisions? Like, doesn't it reduce on the struggle because everyone would want to take
No,
on?
it doesn't. Actually, what was happening before, though I edited that information, was that Musaz, who founded the Uganda National Congress, was originally dealing with the farmers' associations or federations. They staged a strike in 1952, 1945, wanting serious issues like having a control of the agricultural produce and marketing, having loans, wishing to buy tractors, wishing to elect leaders. When they demonstrate and want those things to be worked on, they are not worked on. And the Mzungu decides to ban even their farmers' association. They regroup quietly. 1949, they do the same thing. They get the same results, which are negative. And now Musaz started scratching his head and was not getting the solution with the frustrated farmers. Till he managed to sneak to London. And in London, he met the best brains, the MPs of Labour Party, who are socialist leaning. They welcomed him. The international Pan-Africanists, those you know like Podimo, they also welcomed him. And they said, please, leave farmers out of this thing. Can you just form a political party and you wage a real struggle? This is when you can help your country. Put up definite political demands. Demand for self-internal government. And when you have the power now, it is the power which will lead you to whatever you need. So this is how we came with that call. And when you have formed a political party, it helps you as a journey to walk that journey. Because the Muzungu will not give you power unless you have a political institution. And a political party with that political institution.
Yes, okay.
And yes.
I understand now. Okay, now, so Obote is in
yes, Obote is in Kenya.
Sharpening.
Yes, sharpening. Actually, you see, this politics also has miracles. Obote was at Makerere studying his books. Now the Lwanga District Council decides to get him a scholarship to do law in Khartoum. As he gets ready to do law in Khartoum, colonial government from Entebbe says, you will be an excess money power. Lwanga District Council does not need a lawyer at this time. So Obote's choice was to go back to Makerere or to continue with life. So he opted to continue with life and operated from Jinja there. That is where now an opportunity happened for him to go to Kenya. And when an opportunity happened to him to go to Kenya, he disturbed his leader, lawyer Lwanga in Jinja, that please can you give me a letter accrediting me as an ambassador of UNC. You see, those leaders were very, very visionary. They are not like our generation, where everything is smooth. And Obote told me that he struggled for that letter very much. And the UNC leadership were not seeing the bigger picture of it. Instead, they were interested that when you reach in Kenya, make sure that our girls come back. We had started exporting girls to Kenya, Mombasa and Nairobi. So Obote was laughing. Me, I want this political letter. You are telling me about those girls. What type of UNC is this? So the letter he was given was very critical. And when he was in Kenya, he came into close contact with Dedan Kimathi, the leader of Mau Mau. And the leader of Mau Mau told him, please join us. Obote said, no, I cannot join you. I'm not a Chukuyu. I cannot take any oath of Mau Mau. But whatever you are doing, I have no objection. So in this context, leave me alone, and he produced the letter. After he has produced the letter, he was allowed, because they wanted, I think, to help them wherever he's in. They are bringing in some items. Then from that time, he was transferred to Nairobi. When he reached Nairobi again, politics had been switched off, but they allowed them to form welfare societies. And the Kolalani Welfare Society, when it was formed, they told Obote to lead it. This is the first time now Obote is coming in leadership in Kenya. And in that welfare society, they forgot about talking about welfare. They were on direct politics. Welfare was just a cover-up. He met with his former lecturers from Makerere, the students he had studied with, and they started being cautious. Now, when an opportunity was happened that open political parties that they should not go beyond the province, they sat down with their brains in Kenya, formed a constitution of Kenya African Union. And they said, we don't have any capable leader. Obote take it up. And Obote became the head of Kenya Africa Union, the forerunner to Kanu, which delivered independence. So we thank Kenya for tutoring, for mentoring Obote, and then an opportunity came when a seat fell vacant in Nairobi, I think west or east, and Tom Mboya was the candidate. So the Kenyan told Obote, can you lead now the campaign? And Obote had an opportunity. We did not know that it was his training field. So Mboya went into parliament, and Obote continued to lead. But I think in periodism realized that this Obote is becoming another person. Can't we open our files and we get his proper record? Meanwhile, let him be locked up. So Obote was locked up. And when they failed to find the evidence, they released him. And Obote said, I think now I have suffered enough. Let me go back.
Go back to my home.
And he handed over, and he left Kenya, and he came back home. Reaching home,
equipped.
Yes, reaching home, he found when Lango, his backyard, was having a serious debate whether the customary land should be revolutionized and they issue land titles to individuals. And the society was not happy of such a decision. So a campaign went on, he participated in it, and everybody now noticed that there is a kid on the block. And they even requested some leader there that, can you create a way for this gentleman in the Regico? As they did that and created a way for him in the Regico, again, circumstances or opportunities opened up for him. In 1958, we first had the formal elections to the Legislative Council. And these elections had 10 constituencies Buganda refused. Buganda was still vague that you cannot vote on a Kabaka. Kabaka cannot be gauged by a vote. So Buganda boycotted. Now each region, like Elango, it is one constituency. West Nile Madi, one constituency. Acholi, one constituency. Busoga had 2. Bukedi, 1. Bunyoro, 1. And what have you? In the end, UNC won 5 of them. DP won 1. Well, that is West Nile and Madi. And the 4 were the independents, who later on formed the Uganda People's Union in the parliament and became a parliamentary party of Rwesiba, but with no roots on the ground. So Obote now comes officially to the parliament. With his experience in Kenya when he was talking in the parliament, even you could listen to the needle falling down on the ground. Everybody was attentive.
Okay.
And they knew now they have got a leader, and he became a formal leader in the parliament. So this now led to the mother-in-law of Mutesa, Mama Pumla Chisosonkole, to take a note of Obote. And when he took note of Obote, he called him in the office that, our son, the way you are talking, the way you are seeing Uganda's future is very unique from the rest. From today onwards, I want you to have a close working relationship with my son, Sir Edward Mutesa.
Okay.
And in the process, as they agreed to have that sort of relationship, it was also agreed that let it be with the confidentiality. Because this indirect rule system divided us so much, there is so much tension in the country, we cannot just go on rooftop. So the initial meetings of Bamunanika, private ones, secretive ones, started.
Okay.
And that is where you hear so many stories that Obote yeyala kutaka, Obote did this, Obote not. But when I asked him, he said, no, me, I did not belong to Buganda. It is Abu Mayanja you went with who did all those rituals. Me, I was spared by King Freddy with those rituals. But public opinion here says, no, the man went on the ground, did the rituals. He says he did not do. And I don't think that Obote, it would have been in the interest of him to say whatever he did not do. Okay? In order to kill him. So from there, it gave an inside working relationship, and he started understanding Buganda's problems, that Buganda's problems stem from the 1900 agreement, where we are given special status and special privileges. Because of that now, when you talk about independence, Buganda will ask you, this independence, what does it mean? Where do you put our Kabaka? And if you don't have any answer convincing to Kabaka and Menge establishment, Buganda was ready not to be part of it.
All right.
And if Buganda is not part of the independence struggle, then it means all the efforts, all the ideas we have been putting together are going to go on the West. So what does it mean? Was now to start engaging Buganda in a special way. And when the British started engaging Buganda in a rough way, Buganda erupted. Because you remember in 1953, Sir Edward Mutesa was exiled. And when he was exiled, Britain tried to get a replacement of him. The Baganda traditionalists told them that we don't, unless somebody has already died, yes. But we don't behave in that manner. Okay? So they failed to smuggle in someone. And as they failed, they said, now, we need to treat Buganda with respect. And we need to remember, it is us who were the entry point. So they had now to come and organize a Namirembe conference, which kicked off from 1953-52 up to 55. Wow. And that is when now we got the Namirembe Agreement of 1955, which resulted into the return of the Kabaka back.
Okay.
And when the Kabaka now came back, UNC had done a great job. It had moved around the country, mobilized that this is not an issue of Uganda and Kabaka. It is an attack on Uganda. Britain bring back our Kabaka. So there are so many people who came in and welcomed the Kabaka. And my mom talks about it. She was, I think, having a younger kid. She was breastfeeding. She just waved at the plane. Because Kaboja and Entebbe, it is not very far. You can know that the plane has just come. Or it is taking off. Okay. So she waved. So, as I was trying to explain, now the question was, how do we handle Uganda? And you cannot handle Uganda and you pretend not to handle other places also. But of course, UNC understood that. Now, in the process, Obote with the UNC, they had their conflicts, and now they met in Mbale in 1958, and they realized that Kangave Musazi cannot continue pushing the party into the future. Although, of course, the confusion was internal. It had to do with the some lack of trust from the chairman, Jole Joy Chiwanuka, who had, I think, had issues to do with the funding, which he had not declared formally, and personally used it. When his boss got information, Jole Joy Chiwanuka got wounded and organized the delegate conference in Mbale, which formally impeached Kangave Musazi and brought in Obote. Obote came at the time and put some conditions that he needs to talk first to Ignatius Kangave Musazi. They talked. Then he said he needs to talk to the Lango delegation. They talked. Then other delegations met him. Later on, he made an acceptance speech, which reminded UNC of the core values, why it was formed. And they said, let us be ready for the commission which is going to be formed, and we give all our political views. And this commission came to be known as YOD Commission because of the person who headed it. Okay, and they trained people across the country with what they wanted. Okay. This is how now we are having a definite result that we shall have a multi-party elections in 1961 March, and under a constituency this time which are 81, as opposed to the 10 we had in 1958. Okay. And the UPC, when they saw that bigger picture at UNC, they decided to say unity is better. This is how now in March 1960 they merged with UPU, Uganda People's Union of Resiba, and gave birth to UPC. And they were now ready for the 1961 elections. Which technically they won in terms of votes, but in terms of constituencies or MPs, they lost to DP. And UPC became an opposition political party in the parliament, while DP was serving in the government. And when you total the votes, UPC got more votes than DP. This was because of the boycott which was in Uganda, and which made the whole exercise a farce. Because Uganda, instead of registering about 700 people, they only registered less than 45,000. Wow. And when it came to voting, I think less than 15,000, not more than 15,000, voted for the 21 MPs. Yet in Busoga alone, in the constituency of Nadiope, over, I think, 23,000 people, voters, voted for him. And this is the sort of elections DP has been very thankful that they won. So, since now there was that election is done, and the sensitive of Uganda not part of it, primarily, there was a need to go for more discussions in London. And when we went for more discussions in London, each side had its demands. DP wanted to be confirmed as the government, as the party in government from that time to the next 5 years. That was their bargaining chip. UPC wanted the elections to be repeated. Okay? And the KY similarly also wanted a sort of federal government. So in the Lancaster discussions, all the sides were met individually. And the KY was assured of that elections can be repeated and they can be given a leeway to decide if they can send the MPs to a National Assembly by indirect elections, provided the MPs for the Luchiko have been voted through one man, one vote.
Okay, briefly,
Yes.
because I understand time is now running out, briefly talk about the union between UPC and the KY that led to independence initially.
Okay. UNC, which is the father, the parent of UPC, believed in unity. And now also in the wisdom of UPC was that if independence is to have a meaning, we must be united. And united meant working together. So in our UPC manifesto of March 1962, an idea, a proposal for a coalition government was made. And indeed, our party president, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, approached Benedicto Kiwanuka twice on the issue of forming a coalition government. But Benedicto Kiwanuka was not ready to buy it. And approached Mengo, and Kabaka accepted. And here I have to give special credit to Kabaka. Kabaka did not only accept, but allowed Obote to pick anybody from Mengo and put him in government if he feels that that person is important. We needed unity to move forward.
Okay.
Remember, Uganda was having only less than 400 graduates at the time of independence.
Wow.
So any person was very, very important. And unity was very, very important. So he wanted a coalition government, even including DP. Okay.
So maybe
Yes.
as we conclude, what should we celebrate on independence?
What we should celebrate
few
in
seconds.
independence is this journey we have walked together. From the time we waged the decolonization and independence struggle. It was through unity that 9th October 1962 came. And it is through this unity that we suffer. So we have to close our ranks. And closing our ranks, it means we have to forgive and forget. We have to be steadfast in reconciliation. We have to be more friendly. We have to remember that this Uganda we are working on, or we are holding, there are people who sacrificed it. We have to pay homage. We have to take a personal reflection. We have to know that Uganda belongs to the past, to the present, and to the future. And to do our level best. The language that past leaders did not understand, all our chiefs did not do a better job, that language should just reflect where we are coming from. And we should love each other, we should be more friendly, and we should know that independence was handed to us under a multi-party setup. And under total freedom, where now you could hold a rally anywhere. You could associate, you could disassociate freely, as I've talked about the splits. So this time now, when we are 61, and you are telling me that to speak I need a special permission, to assemble people I need a special permission, it is as if we are going against the goals of independence.
All right, thank you so much. This has been Professor Christopher, of course, a very, very brilliant person. If you are keen to the history he was giving us, it is an interesting one. Of course, so many people gave up their lives to truly bring what we have right now, the 61 years of independence, the freedom, and all that. It has been an interesting one. And of course, we still have more discussions coming up in issues at hand. But of course, for now, it is Happy Independence. Of course, stay tuned for more updates here at Church of Uganda Family TV.